Hey,
Hi.
hi, good evening.
No, go on, I'll let you do your intro.
Okay, so you can go ahead, Daniel. Yeah.
All right. Hi, I'm Daniel from OS Training, and this is the buzz in Drupal 8 CMI that's going to be presented by.
So hey guys, I'm Gaurav, and I'll be talking about CMI, a new buzzword in Drupal 8. So yeah, let's start. So yep. So I'm from India, and it's like evening in India. So good evening and good morning if you are in US or in EST. So yeah, good evening and good morning to all of you. I'm Gaurav Goyal. I work with Innograph Solutions, and I'm working in Drupal from like last 4 years. So today we'll be talking about configuration management and yeah, things related to that. So we'll be just getting the generic things. We'll know what is configuration and entities in Drupal 8, how configuration system works in Drupal 8, how features is different from Drupal 7, and what are the new things introduced in features in Drupal 8. And then we'll see real case scenario when you actually work with configuration system. So what kind of problems you face, how you can work in parallel, and basically how can you work in team. So we're gonna see all that in this session. So yeah, configuration management initiative was taken like 3 4 years back, where Drupal communities uh, check out like what are the problems in Drupal 7, and then they figure out, okay, we need a solid system for management of configuration. So CMI configuration management initiative was taken, and it is now successfully completed, and there is no more CMI now. It's been converted to configuration system. So in general, what are configurations? So configurations are like settings, admin settings basically, which determines the functions of your site. So when I talk like, if we talk about configuration in Drupal perspective, a content type is a configuration. A site name, like whatever site name you have, that is a configuration. Same with the site email. So all these kind of configurations determines how you can, how your site will function. So why do we need a configuration system? Like in previous versions of Drupal as well, everything was working like fine. We were doing things, we were managing configuration, but why in Drupal 8 we need that configuration system? So let's go in back and see how we were doing things in previous versions of Drupal, i.e. Drupal 7, Drupal 6. So previously we used to manually move the configuration between different environments, or we were doing database sync, like we had some configuration on our local system, we exported the database and imported it on our either dev or stage server. But like this was not exactly how we should do. This is not the best way to do it. So in Drupal 7, like there was a good method to do that, and we were using features module to exporting our configurations. But features module was not created for this purpose. Features module was basically created for packaging of your configuration. But in Drupal 7, we use that for configurations, right? So yeah, now let's understand why we need configuration system. So we have different environments: development, stage, and production, and we need every configuration on these different environments to be in sync. So for synchronizing of configuration between different environments, we need a configuration system. And in Drupal 7, why? So in Drupal 7, configuration and content was tightly coupled with each other, and they both exist in database, and then it was hard to distinguish what is my content, what is my configuration. So that's why there were no configuration system in earlier versions of Drupal. Now in Drupal 8 we have new information architecture in place, where you can easily identify, okay, these are my configurations, these are my content. So in Drupal 8 we have like 5 kind of information, where we have content entities, configuration entities, state information, catch information, and then sessions. So all those configuration, whether it is a content type or it is a view or it is your just site settings, all these are configuration entities. Whereas if you have node, that is your content entity. State is basically specific to your instance, like what was the last time when your cron was run. All this information is sit then cache and sessions. So with this information architecture in place, Drupal community was able to create a configuration system. So yeah, let's understand what is how this configuration system works in Drupal 8. So in Drupal 7, when we used features module, we used to export our configuration. So if there are some content types or views, with the help of features module, we used to export them into code, and then we used to move them. Same thing configuration system module does. This basically exports all the configurations of your site into YML files. And now all the configurations are in YML files. You can export them. You can, version control them, and you can use these files to, you can import these files basically to sync the configurations. So yeah, let's see what are the important terms in configuration management. So there are certain terminologies like active configurations. Active configurations are those configurations which are currently active on your site. So let's say you have a production site and you have some active you have some configurations over there. All those configurations are known as active configurations. Whereas staging configuration are those configuration which you are trying to import. So for example, you created some, you have some changes on your local site, you exported those configuration. Now these exported configuration are known as staging configuration. Now where you store all these you'll store all these configuration into a directory. That directory is known as sync directory. And Drupal 8 gives you a method to, specify a directory, a sync directory. All you need to do is you need to place this line in your settings.php, where config sync directory equals to the path of the directory. This path is basically relative to your doc root. So yeah, this means it will be like this path will be read in terms of doc root. So let's quickly see how configuration system looks like, how we can use it to deploy configurations. So yep, so if you see over here, this is how a configuration CMI UI looks like. You have different tabs over here: synchronize tabs, import tab, and export tab. With the help of these steps, you can manage every configuration on your site. So over here I have made some changes. So if you, I can see the changes between current configuration and my staging configuration. So let's do one thing. Let's change the site name. So currently, let it load. So yeah, my current site name is like D8 days CMI local. I'll remove this local from here. I'll add a slogan testing, and I'll save it. So when I'll save it, all these configuration will go into my current configuration. So they will be my active configuration. I'll come again to synchronize tab. I'll refresh it. And over here, I can see the difference between active configurations and staging configuration. So if you see, there are different files which has, some difference between current configuration and upcoming configuration. So let's see, system.site file. Over here, see, we have added this slogan over here, right? Which doesn't exist in your staging configuration. So you can track all your changes over here. And right, so now your staging configuration does not contain this slogan. So either you can import those configurations again, which will replace your active configuration with those configuration, or you can export these configuration into a staging configurations. So we have changed the site name. Now let's say we want to deploy this slogan to our various different instances. So what I can do, I can go to my export tab, where I can do two types of export of configuration. One is full archive, another is single item. In my full archive export, I'll be exporting all the configuration of my site, where in single item, I can select a single configuration and actually export that. So if I just want to export the system site configurations, so I can simply select my configuration type and then configuration name. In this box that my new configuration will appear. So I can copy it and save, and add this into this, create a file name called this, and add all these configuration over here, add this file to my sync directory and push it. So that's how I can manage. And on another instance I can basically import those configuration. So yeah, I can do all these things with Drush as well. So let's see. So if I need to export all my configuration using Drush, there is a command called cex. I just need to run this. So this command will automatically identify my sync directory, where is my sync directory, and export all these new configuration into the directory. So it is taking some time. Let's wait. So yeah, now you can see all this configuration has been changed, right? We have new features, file created. We have some change in system.site, and we have code.x some changes in. So clicking on Y will export all these configuration into my sync directory. And now I have, if I do a git status, I can see these files has been changed because I have version controlled my sync directory. So I can track these changes with the help of git as well. So if I see, okay, all these modules are enabled in my configurations. And if I do a git diff for this file, yeah, all these things has been changed on my system.site file. So yeah, these configuration are under git, so I can simply add them, and I can commit them. So now all these configuration are now part of staging configurations. Currently, all the active configuration and staging configuration are in sync. So if I go to staging, if I go to synchronize tab again, I won't find any differences because staging and active configuration are in sync with each other. So now let's try to deploy these configuration into another site. I have this another D8 stage instance created. So where if you see over here, the name is like D8 CMI local, and yeah, I do not have this admin toolbar over here, but it's there. So yeah, I'll push all these changes and we'll try to sync configuration over here. So okay, I'll push. I'll come to my I'll pull all the configuration over here from the master directory. So I can see all these files has been changed. Now I'll go to the configuration synchronization tab of my another instance, or I can simply run a drush command as well. This preview flag is used to see what are the differences in my configuration. So the view difference thing, you can see, check it from there as well. It's trying to connect. Let's see if UI is available. Okay, so yeah, now we can see all these configuration has been changed. Admin toolbar module is enabled. Admin toolbar tools module is also enabled. We have some other modules enabled as config, update, features here, and then we have site name change and we have slogan in place. And now it's asking, shall I import all these configuration? I'll click on yes, and it will import all these configurations. Now, there is one more thing in the C, which Drupal 8 has introduced. Like, you can only import and export. You can only sync your configuration between the different instances of same site. All the different instances of same site will have same UUID. So all those instances which have same UUID, you can only export and import configuration in all those instances. Let's see, it's like importing the current changes. Let's wait till it imports. Yep. So this has CMI has imported all the configuration changes. So now I'll refresh this, and this all these things should go away. And we should have the same site like this. We should have this toolbar in place. We should have this testing configuration slogan in place. So yeah, if you see, all the configuration are gone now because we have imported all the configurations. And yeah, you can see over there we have this toolbar, nice toolbar coming. And let's go to basic site settings to check if our configurations are correct or not. So yep, we have this slogan coming over here. We have this site name same over here. So yeah, that's how you can export your configuration between different environments. Now, let's say you need to install a site from existing set of configurations. So this can be a requirement where you have developed everything on your local, and you do not want to export your database, because if you create a site with fresh install, it will have some different UUID. So to avoid that problem, you need to install your site using your existing configurations. So there is a module for that called config_installer. Config_installer. So this is basically a profile, an installation profile, which you can put into your system in your profiles folder, and it will allow you to install site from existing configuration. So over here I have this another setup over there. So I'll let's see how it works. I have placed this config installer over here in profiles directory. It's taking some time in loading. So over here, when you choose your profile, like I'll click on the language, and while choosing profile, this module basically allow me to specify the sync directory, specify a directory where all your configuration lives, or you can upload a tarball. So when you export the configuration, when you do a full export, a tarball will be downloaded. You can use that tarball configuration over here in this using this profile. So what it will do, it will fetch all your configuration from the tarball or from that configuration sync directory and install your site with those configurations. So let's see this in action. So let me pull it first. So yeah, now I have pulled all the configurations over here. So if you see, okay, I need to just give the name. So I'm installing a current site using existing site configurations. So after creating, this will automatically create this database. Drupal 8 has this, I guess, new feature where you enter the credentials of your MySQL and it will create the database for you. So if you can see over here, you can now specify the sync directory path over here. Either specify the sync directory path over here, or you can upload that configuration tar file which we can download from that export folder. So in my case, I'll specify that sync directory path. It's like it's relative to your doc root. I have placed that sync directory in my doc root itself. So this will be the path and I'll do a save and continue. So now it will import all those configuration from this directory. It will set the UUID same as I have in my configuration, and yes, it will install everything from that configuration. It will take some time, so I'll skip to this step, right? And we can check out it at the later in my talk. So yeah, so that's how you can install your site from existing configurations, and now it has started. So it will take everything from that sync directory. So yeah. Uh, so let's see now after this, like how features are there. So till now we have seen what are the configurations and a bit of demo of CM configuration UI and Drush. So let's see how features are different from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. In Drupal 7, we use features to export our content types, export our configurations. So we can export some configuration using features core module, whereas for some configuration we use strong arm module. Like if we need to export our variables, we use strong arm module. But in Drupal 8, features is like complete rewrite up, and it's only dedicated to packaging your configurations. So if you want, so the basic idea behind features was to package everything. Like I have a feature which has a content type, which has a view. So for example, let's say I'm creating a media gallery. In media gallery, I have a content type called media gallery. I have a view called media gallery underscore view. So this feature module will automatically detect all such configuration and package them into a bundle. And you can use this bundle into different instances to have this setup. Right, so that's what is now features in Drupal 8 are dedicated to. So they can automatically detect changes. They can auto package depending on the dependencies in configuration, better Drush support, and yeah, modular UI. So let's see how this UI is in Drupal 8 for features. So yeah, now, how these features work basically. So you have a configuration for views. In that configuration, you will have some dependencies. Okay, my this view depend on this particular content type. This view is dependent on this particular image style. So features will automatically identify all such dependencies and package them into a module. That module is called features. So if you see by default, Drupal create features create some modules called article, basic page, and if we see the configuration of article, there is a content type, and then there are different things related to this article. So you can now export this particular feature, enable it into any of the site. Yeah, the one more important thing in features is you can import that features on any site. It does not depend on UID, so it's independent of that. So let's say you need to export some configuration from your current site to, let's say, XYZ site whose UID is different. So you can use features module to export all these configuration. So that's how uh, feature has now better understanding. It is now more intelligent than Drupal 7. It can auto detect all your configurations and package them. So yeah, in Drupal 8, features will be used for packaging your configuration, not for exporting your configurations. So yep, that's all about features in Drupal 8. So still, like, you can use both CMI and features, but if you do not use features, it won't affect your site. You can still do all the things with CMI. Whereas if you use features, it will just allow you to export your changes in different sites. So moving ahead, let's see some real case scenarios where you are working in a team. Let's say you have team of 3 or 4 developers who are working on a project which has this configuration management in place. What are the problems? What are the different problems which you can face? How you can manage your team? How you can manage your configuration and version control? So yeah, we'll be focusing on two things: how a team can work and how you can ensure that your work is not lost in deployments. So let's say you have a team of two developers where you have a Git repository for your code and configuration. Because now configuration are in files, you can export them, you can version control them. So you have moved all your code and configuration into a Git repository, and you have a successful Git workflow. Whatever Git workflow suits for the projects according to your need. It may be a shared workflow, it may be a fork method, it may be anything. So depending on that, depending on your need, you selected a Git workflow. Now you're both the developers are working on different branches. They change their code and they push the code into different branches. Now to sync to get all the code in at one place, you'll merge these branches. While merging these branches, the main thing comes. You need to be very careful while merging of these branches. So yeah, if you do not carefully merge, you can basically lose all your uncommitted work. You can accidentally overwrite others' work as well. And yeah, even if the merge is successful, there can be a problem where configuration becomes invalid for Drupal. For Git, they may be like straightforward, but for Drupal, they'll be invalid. So let's see a scenario where this thing can actually cause a problem, where careless merge can cause a problem. So again, developer A and developer B both are working on a project. Let's come to developer A and see what he is doing. Developer A is working on a branch A, and yes, he has deleted a field tags from a content type A, and now he exported all these configurations. Remember, the tags field is only used in content type A, which is now deleted by developer A. So when developer A will export all the configuration system will delete two files, field instance for tags and field storage for tags. So he'll push this branch A, everything is good for him. Now coming to developer B, he has some other requirement where he has to add this tags field into content type B. So he added now he adds that field into content type B. He export all the configuration. Now the change in configuration will be a new field instance configuration file will be created. Developer V also pushed his configuration. So now these both the configurations are pushed in different branches. Changes which has happened due to all this work are in different files. So Git will easily merge these configuration because there won't be any conflict. But now you will be importing these conflicts into Drupal. Drupal will give error over here because Drupal will try to import the tags field instance whose storage is deleted. So over here, when developer A deleted tags field, its storage was deleted. Here, when developer V added the tags field, its instance file is created. Now Drupal will try to create this instance without this storage. So Drupal gives you an error. So you can, this is one of the instance where you can have problems. There can be other problems as well. So there are certain steps which you need to do whenever you do merging of the configuration, whenever you play with the configurations. So a safe sequence for this can be, first you exported all the configurations from your local, you committed them, then you pulled all your configuration from different developers, and then you imported on your local. This step is critical because here you ensure that everything is working correctly. After ensuring that everything is working correctly, then only you should push your configurations to the development server or development branch, wherever you want to push. If you miss out on anything, there are high possibilities that there can be problems in the configurations. So yeah, if you follow these steps, I think 90% of the times you won't encounter any problem. But Drupal is again funny, so that 10% has to be, it's specific to your project. So yeah, this can be a safe sequence. So that's how you can work in parallel, where you can ensure everything. So let's see some real life, like real problems which you face, like which are in the requirements which are generic. Like I should have this thing. I need to have this thing on my local. So yeah, first thing is like override configuration in different environment. So let's say you have three environments: development, stage, and production. Configuration is in sync for these three environments. You have selected a wonderful approach of Git, and yeah, you are now working on that. So there are certain requirements, like there can be a requirement where you need to disable your cache settings on your development server, but you want your cache settings to be enabled on production server. You may want to enable devil module on development server, but want to disable devil module on your production server. So there can be some specific configurations for specific instances. So how do we do that? Like if we use configuration management normal workflow over here, it won't work, because let's say you disabled caching on your local, you exported all the configurations and you pushed all these configuration to your development stage and production server, and now you imported all these configurations. So what will happen now? The configuration is same, right everywhere. So everywhere your devil module will be disabled or enabled depending on your configuration. So how we can do that? Now let's take a simple scenario where you need verbose system logging, right? So Drupal has a solution for it. You can now settings.php file is specific to your environment. So for development server, for development instance, you will have a specific settings of PHP, same for stage and production. So you can specify your specific configurations into these settings files. So for verbose file, you basically added this line into development server settings.php file. Now, see, when you export and import configuration on development server, settings file configurations are ignored. CA configuration system does not take them into account. So yeah, you have now different setting on development server, and if you export or import new configuration, it won't change anything. So that's how you can manage your configurations. But there are again some limitations for it. You can only alter existing configuration using settings.php file. You cannot enable disable modules using $config. Basically $config is an array which contains all your configurations. So using this method you cannot enable and disable modules. You cannot add any new configurations, right? So you can only alter all these configurations. So still we are on the same page. We have seen like, okay, I can alter my system logging, I can control my cache settings, but how do I go about modules? How can I disable and enable modules on different environments? So yeah, we will be checking that how we can do that. So yep, the one way is to use Drush. Drush has this skip modules flag where you can specify the name of the module, and while exporting the configurations, Drush will ignore the settings for this module. But again, now if you have a standalone module, this method will work. But as but think of a situation where you are using, let's say, entity reference module, and you are using some entity reference fields in different views. Now you do not want to, you want to enable this module only on your local. So you did this thing, you basically executed this command drush cex skip modules entity, so it will only skip the enable disable information of that particular module, whereas all the configuration wherever this module is used will be as it is. So when you import this configuration, it will give you an error, okay, this module is not disabled, not enabled, right? So yeah, drush this skip modules thing works for all the modules which are standalone, which does not depend on anything, or other configuration which does not depend on this module. So now how we can tackle this? For this, there is a tool called Drush CMI tool created by Previous Next. So what they have done, they have created another flag called ignore-list, where you can specify all the configuration which you want to ignore in a list, and you can use Drush CEXY ignore list. So what will happen over here, when Drush will export all these configuration, it will read that configuration file, YAML file, and it will ignore all these configurations. So let's say if you have a module, if you have some configuration which depends on something, and yeah, you want that to be ignored, you should mention all these configurations into that file, and that's how you can manage your modules and everything. Another way to do this is configuration split module. This is a module which is still in development but offers very good functionality. With this module you can create different filters, right? And you can specify, okay, I want to ignore my settings, I do not want to ignore all these settings, I can blacklist some settings. So yeah, when you'll use this module, when you'll export the configuration using this module will essentially ignore all those settings depending on your filters. So yeah, this is a better solution than all of this according to my experience. Over here you can simply configure everything on UI, and then you can use Drush to export and import configurations. So that's how you can control your specific configuration which will be specific to your instance. Now let's say you have done everything. Now you have controlled the specific configuration as well. You have some specific configuration to that instance. But let's say you want to handle your changes at production server. You have some client or someone who is interested in doing continuous changes on your development on your production server. So it can be a developer as well, or there can be a situation where you need to change something directly on production server. So how we can handle those changes? So to handle all those changes on production server, you can use different modules, different techniques. So there is a module called config read only module. You can enable this module over there on your production server. You can add this line to your settings.php. What it will do, it will make all the configurations read only. It will lock all the configuration, or it won't be easy to change all these configuration without a developer's interference. So that's how you can manage. Another thing is you can have separate branches for your productions server. So let's say you have development instance on a development branch, and you have production server on your production branch. Now let's say you have to make some changes on the production branch. Now there are some other tools like the CMI tools, configuration management tools, a module. You can use those modules. So what they do, they keep committing all your configuration changes to your repository. So you are using just CMI, you are using that CMI tools module, and you have your production setup on a branch called master. Now let's say you need to change some configuration over there. As soon as you change all those configuration, this module will commit those configuration to your that branch. Now whenever you start working on any new feature or any new task, you can pull out all these configuration, you can run through that save sequence, and you can basically sync your current configuration with the live configuration. Another way is to use configuration split module. Again, you with the help of this module, you can create different splits where you can specify, okay, these configuration are changeable by either by client or by developers. So we can change them on the fly. So yeah, this module, like when you will use this module, this will ignore all these configurations. So whatever is there on your production server will stays over there. So yeah, these are the three ways to manage your configuration on the production server. Now let's come to another scenario where you want to handle all your configuration which depends on content. So let me go a bit back in Drupal 7. So in Drupal 7 we had blocks. Sorry. So in Drupal 7, I always have encountered problems deploying my blocks to my production servers. Blocks have two kind of things. Blocks have configuration as well and content as well. So yeah, right now if you export your blogs, right? So you created a blog in Drupal 8 on your local server. The configuration of this blog will be exported, but not the content, right? So when you export your block, only the configuration will be there. You imported that configuration on your development instance, it will give you an error. It will basically give you a broken handler missing because it won't find that block's content over there. So to export a block, the block should exist over there, and then only you can import the configuration related to that block. How we can now make sure that our block is successfully over there? So there are different ways to do that. The main thing which we need to do is we need to create our blog initially. So block should exist over there, and then we should apply our configuration changes to that block. So do that. For doing this, you can use different methods. One is like event subscriber. Whenever your block content is missing, whenever your content is missing, CMI fires an event called import missing content. You can subscribe to that event and you can actually migrate your content. So now when this event is fired, you will be subscribing to that and you will be importing your content. So now now configuration system will know, okay, I have content for this particular thing. Let's apply configurations. So that's the one way to do that. But again, it will highly depend on developers. You should know the event subscribers and these things, how to code Drupal. So yeah, another way is to use default content module. Default content module allows you to add some default content using your modules, using a new module. So you created a new module. There is some structure for default content where you need to create a default underscore content directory in your module, and you can put JSON or HL files for your content. Right. So you deployed this module on your production site, on your development site, you enable this module, your default content would be there, and again now you sync your configurations. That's how you can do that. Another way is to use deploy module. So for using deploy module, you need to know services. Deploy module heavily depends on services. So you need to connect, your different instances using services, and then you can use deploy module to deploy your content. So I would say deploy module is foolproof solution, but I prefer default underscore content module to make all these changes. And after that, hook update, and you can do the same thing using hook update, and there is a new hook introduced in Drupal 8, hook post update, which runs after running hook update, and so you can use that. And the least recommended way is to database sync. So what you could do over here, you created a block on your development site, you exported your database, you imported that database on your local site, and then you made your changes into blocks and menu links and everything. So now, yeah, the block content exists everywhere. You exported all the configuration and exported them. So that's the least recommended method. And yeah, that's how you can decide, like you can work on all the configuration which depends on your content. So depending on your ease and requirements, basically you can choose what fits best for your purpose. Yep. So yeah, let's see quickly what we have seen, what we went through in talk. So we see what is configuration system and how configuration system works in Drupal 8. So yep, what are the approaches for configuration system, how we can deploy configurations, how we can work in parallel, and yes, common problems faced by everyone. So yep, so feel free to ask questions in that questions box you can see on the right side of your tab. I took the references from all these links. Yeah, most of the things were I got inspired from a presentation in DrupalCon Dublin, I guess, Dublin 2016, where New World guys have given this really interesting presentation, and they came with this really interesting scenarios. So yeah, you can go through these links. These links have good information about the CMI. You can read everything over there. So yeah, please ask your questions.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Do
Cool.
you want me to read them out for you, or
Sorry?
do you want me to read the questions out, or are you going to read them?
I can read the question. So, okay. Okay, Adil has asked this question, how do we configure the location of the sync directory? So, okay, I'll go to a slide. Where is it? Okay, so you can specify this line into your settings.php file, or over here you can define the location of your sync directory. your location of sync directory is relative to your doc root. So if you have sync directory in your doc root, you can simply specify over here sync. If you have that sync directory outside of your doc root, you can use dot dot and then specify that relative path. So all you need to do is to specify relative path depending on your doc root in the settings.php file. Does that answer your question?
It's a good question, actually, because I'd not actually realised it does that. That's kind of careless if putting it in your files folder.
Sorry? Can we import and export? Okay, next question is, can we import and export the synchronized configuration of D7 to D8 or vice versa? So in D7, we have all the configuration are in code basically. In Drupal 7, you have all the configuration in PHP code, and in Drupal 8, you have all the configuration in YAML files. So I don't think so we can synchronize between Drupal 7 and Drupal 8 configurations. So instead of it, what you can do, like you can migrate, you need to migrate all the configurations. Like you have a content type in Drupal 7, you can migrate that content type into Drupal 8 and then export its configuration. But directly, I don't think so there is any way where you can, synchronize between these configurations, because Drupal 7 and Drupal 8 has different architectures. So yeah, I don't think so there is any way of
No,
doing that.
I think it would need to run through a migrate process first anyway, so you'd probably be better off doing it all in migration.
Right. So to do that, we need to migrate the configurations into Drupal 8, and then you can export the configurations. Okay, what's next? So are there any more questions?
How do we export custom blocks in D8?
Okay, so for exporting custom blocks, we have like you need to first create your blog. You created your blog on local environment. Then you can use these methods. Okay, just give me a minute. So yeah, there are different methods. So first you need to create that blog everywhere, and then you can export all the configuration. So you can use this module, default content deploy module, to create your blog on like wherever you are exporting, and then you can export the configuration using CMI, and then you can import it. So that's how you can export your custom blocks in Drupal 8.
Next question is, how do you handle a Drupal upgrade?
I didn't get the question actually.
How do you handle a Drupal upgrade? Can you be more specific? Do you mean like in terms of upgrading to the latest version of Drupal or from 7 to 8?
Okay, so if we are upgrading from like Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, I think there won't be any, CMI won't come into picture till then. But if you are upgrading from your minor versions, so what it will happen when you'll pull out all your code and everything, and then when you'll update, Drupal will automatically see what are the configuration changes and put it into your that sync directory if you have mentioned. If you do not have mentioned that sync directory, there is by default sync directory created. It will mention all those changes into that directory. So Drupal will take care of your configurations when you upgrade from Drupal 8 to Drupal 8.1 or 8.2. Okay, so next question is,
Ed's
yes, sir.
asked, following on from the question he asked earlier about the config, he says, is it possible if you exclude the settings.php file from your repo? I'm not sure it is because it just use your default settings, wouldn't it?
Right. So you can it depends on what kind of approach you are taking. So let's say you want to exclude your settings.php file from the repo. So you need to log in into that server, and then you can have you can place that particular directory link manually. Or another way to do that is you can have you can include settings.php in your Git directory, and you can identify the instance. Like if you are you can identify the environment of your instance. If that is like development instance, so include a file settings.php.dev. If this is your staging environment, use another file, and that file consists all these configurations. So you can do this in these two ways. One is like you do not include a settings.php file and you make changes into that file manually. Second is like you include settings.php file in your Git, but you identify the environment. You write some code, okay, based on the environment to include different files. So yeah, that's how you can manage your sync directory.
And yes, we've had a reply from the guy who asked earlier about upgrading Drupal. He wants to know how you'd go about upgrading Drupal 8.1 to 8.2 with Git management.
Okay, so when we do go from 8.1 to 8.2, let's say you'll have some configuration changes. So Drupal, while updating the Drupal version, Drupal will take care of all the configuration. It will see, okay, these are the configuration changes which are coming from 8.2. It will export all these configuration into your current active. It will export all those configuration into your active configuration, and at the same time it will place a copy of these configuration into your staging directory. So I haven't updated these versions, but I think it should be done in this way. So I'm not 100% sure about this, but yes, I'm sure like when you will update it, Drupal will automatically move your configuration into your active configuration, but that staging configuration I also need to recheck that. I'm not sure about that.
Ed asks, is it possible that you can export all your content using the default content module and store all the data in your .yaml files?
So in default, using default underscore content module, the storage is in either JSON format or HL format. It does not store in YAML format. So yeah, you can export most of the content like block, node, menu link, taxonomy terms, comments. Yep, you can export all of these. If there is any other content, I'm not aware of that. But yeah, you can export most of the content using default underscore content module. Okay, so the one question is like, are there drush commands for default content? I'm not aware of such commands because I haven't used drush with default content module. So I may need to check that. Okay.
We've got another one. Is for block export in Drupal 7, we use the features and extra. How has this changed with Drupal 8 in the CM?
Okay, so it exactly in Drupal 8 this problem still exists, like where you can completely export your blocks. For exporting your blocks, you need to use some third-party modules like default contents or deploy module, where you need to actually create your block content first, and then with the help of configurations, CM configuration management, you can export the configurations. But you need to create that block first. So creating that block first, you can either use default underscore content module or deploy module, and then you can use configuration management for the configurations. Okay, questions related to this is how are blocks associated, ID or machine? So every block has a certain ID and every block has a UUID. Depending on that ID, basically these block content, block configurations are related. So if you see blocks, there will be an ID associated with that. So that's how Drupal identifies those blocks. Okay, is it? Yes. So next question is why reel, at reel. So yeah. I don't think so. If you use deploy content, deploy module or default content module, you do not need a DB backups, right? So you can, 90% of the times you can ignore DB backups. Actually, you can skip that part because either deploy or default content module will do the thing for you. So next question is from Jim Fisk. What's the preferred method to install a new site with okay, so imp to install a new site with existing configuration, you should use config underscore installer module where you have that profile into place and you can simply specify the sync directory and it will, take care of the UUID problems. So using config underscore installer module is, what will solve your problems. Okay, the related question. So a local and prod block could have different IDs, right? No, they cannot have. So when you export, when you use deploy module or default content module, they basically create the same ID on your development on your whatever server, prod or server. So your ID will be same on your local and production server for that block. So I'll explain it again. Like the next question related to that was how does the configuration get applied to the right one? So when you export your block, the whatever ID is there on your local will be there on your development or production server, and with that ID, your configuration will be associated. So that's how configuration will be, while importing your configuration, it will check for the ID, and that's how you will have the say they will be in sync. Okay, and now how do you sync environments with different UUIDs? So yeah, like it's not possible like when you use the Drupal core methods, but yes, there are some other tweaks which you can do like to make the same UIDs. One is like you can use some hook underscore install hook by which you can alter the UIDs. But yeah, if you have like different UIDs between two environments, I think it's not possible to sync configuration between them. I guess Daniel, I guess this question is for you. Where can we see the recording of this webinar?
If you're registered to the event, you will get an email telling you when the video is available, and they will eventually end up on our YouTube channel. That is ostrainings.com YouTube channel.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so do we have...
Yes, we have another question. One more question. While importing, can we skip UUID? You mean to import some configuration? I see some tutorial to import configuration. Yes, there are some tweaks where you can do that, but I'm not sure. Like I haven't used that, ignoring because the main purpose of having the UUID was to, allow the configuration sync between two instances of the same site. So yes, there are still some tweaks by which you can do that, but yeah, I'm not sure how to do that actually.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I have one more. Yes, I'll share the slideshow link. I do not have I'll have to make that. So maybe I
If
can
you
create it
want,
or something. Yeah.
If you want, you can just send me the slideshow. You should have an email from me about setting this whole thing up, and I can make sure that that gets pinged out to people along with the video, because I know Morgan's doing something similar with his presentation.
Sure, sure. Let's do that then.
All right, so as long as you're signed up, you should get a link to the video and the slideshow as soon as you sent it over to me. And I thank everyone for attending, and if you're interested, we should have another one starting on using Pattern Lab and Twigs any minute now. So if you want to jump into the other one, thank you very much for presenting for us, and it's been a really good turnout. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Thanks a lot.